time that we met, when I looked in your two eyes so blue, when I saw you standing there, smiling lips and golden hair, I knew that my dreams had all come true. When I asked you for a date and I saw you hesitate, I thought my whole world was tumbling down. But whenever you said yes, I knew I'd found true love at last. For you're the nearest to perfect I've found. When I wake up every morn beside your body soft and warm, I thank the Lord for all the blessings He sent down. And when my long day's work is through, I will hurry home to you, for you're the nearest to perfect I've found. The day you were my bride, tears of happiness I cried, as the road of married life we started down. And on that fine September morn, when our baby girl was born, she was the nearest to perfect I found. Now our children are all grown, very soon they'll all leave home. Their mom and I will be left here on our own. If God calls me first to go, remember I still love you so, for you're the nearest to perfect I've found. When I wake up every morn beside your body soft and warm, I thank the Lord for all the blessings He sent down. And when my long day's work is through, I will hurry home to you, for you're the nearest to perfect I've found. You're the nearest to perfect I found.
Good morning to you all, and on behalf of her family, I welcome you as you have gathered to pay your respects to a good woman, Mrs. Kathleen Winn. My name is Dudley Corbett, and I'm indeed honoured to be invited by Kath herself. In fact, I wasn't invited, I was ordered to conduct this celebration of her life. And it is indeed a life to be well celebrated. The service will take place in its entirety here in the church, and the family and everybody would like to thank the Reverend and the people from the good church for allowing us to have this farewell for Kath here today, so thank you once again. At the conclusion of our service today, the family would love to have you join them for refreshments at another fine establishment in town called the Wynyard Bowls Club, and that's in Park Street, as you would know. The family have also asked me to thank you for this wonderful attendance here today, to assure you of the great comfort it gives them to know that Kath was so loved and so respected. A little bit later on, I'll be opening the service for any of you who would care to share a story or two. I know there'll be many stories. We do have some very eminent speakers to join us a little bit later on, but the service will be open for anybody else who would care to share a little bit later on. And just a reminder, those of you who came in today, if you didn't sign the guest sheet out there, the guest book, you might do it as you return, because the family would love to know exactly who was here and to thank you all so much for your attendance. So hold your loved ones close today and whisper in their ear. Tell them how much you love them and that you'll always hold them dear. Take time to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, or it's okay. And if tomorrow never comes, then you'll have no regrets about today. Just as a lead-in for our speakers today, I must tell you that I was privileged to have known Kath for quite some time through the musical side of things, and Kath and Avis were always there, joined at the hip. I know that Avis will miss her very, very dearly, as well as a lot of other people, but yes, they were regular young ladies at the country music functions over many years, and I got to know Kath through that particular thing, and also with the farewell of the late Mr. Ivor Hall. Yeah, and that was a few years ago now too. I learned that Kath was born in Wynyard on the 26th of March 1930, and the family lived at Boat Harbour, and she did go to the Boat Harbour University in younger years. Her siblings were Daryl, deceased, Cyril and Rox. Now, after she left school, and I imagine it would have been, she may well have only been about 14 years of age or something like that. They did leave fairly early in those days. She went back to the family farm and did domestic work. And, of course, the speakers will elaborate on the history and everything very shortly, but yeah, she was a girl, a lady of the land to start with until she moved to Melbourne, but you will be told in finer detail the story there. I have a screed here that our good friend Mr. Michael Campton is going to share with you, and there's also another couple of little riders that I've received in the late mail that I'll share with you after the speakers have finished. But right now I'd like to call on Michael to come forward and to share a story or two that he has in front of him. And yes, and he's the man who's organising everything on behalf of the family, and they couldn't be in better hands. Michael, it's over to you. Stay as long as you like.
Thanks, Dudley. I've also got a screed here by one of Kath's sons, Lee, and I'll read that after. I'll just say a few quick words of my own. And so thanks very much for those words, Dudley, and I might double up on a few items that might be previously mentioned or will be mentioned in Rox's screed as well. So, but doubling up on myself is not unusual at all, and I do that normally in a lot of conversations. So, likewise, on behalf of Kath's family, Mark and Lee, I welcome you all here today to celebrate Kath's amazing life. I make special note that Kath's grandsons, they are Mark and Jen's sons, Kai and Cale, have made the trip from Brisbane with their mum, Jen, for their grandmother's funeral. Kath loved her grandchildren so much. you're her life, Kai and Carl, and a very, very special part. Those that have travelled from interstate or intrastate, I pass on the family's sincere thanks for taking the time to honour Kath in this way. Also, those that are watching via live stream, thank you very much. I must make special mention to Kath's doctors at Saunders Street Clinic. Big thank you for looking after Kath, along with her specialist Rob Fassett, who was just absolutely wonderful with Kath, and Kath thought he was a bit of all right as well. So a very big thank you, Rob Fassett. There are so many other people to thank, such as the nurses, all other doctors, carers, the Meals and Wheels volunteers, the list goes on and on. So if I have overlooked anyone, I apologise. But I mustn't forget the residents of where she lives, Spencer Park. What a wonderful bunch of friends. So a very big thank you to all of you for looking out for Kath. And of course, the manager of Bev Baker. Best not forget that girl. Thank you very much for looking after Kath in so many other ways, Bev. And I believe her rent is still up to date, so that's good. Thank Owen Muscat of the Baptist Church for allowing us to use this venue, along with Simon from Parkside Funerals. Simon, thank you very, very much. And naturally, I can't leave out Dudley Spud Corbett for taking this service. So, as per Kath's wishes, thank you very much, Spud. Kath was an amazing lady. I was very fortunate to be able to celebrate our special birthdays together, her 90th and my 60th. This was a very special evening and a privilege for me, of course. And I told Kath that night that I reckon she'll probably reach 100. So sorry, Auntie Kath, I did put the mockers on you, girl. I should not have mentioned that milestone, but please forgive me. Kath stayed with Trace and myself on quite a few occasions while she was recuperating after her visits to hospital, plus the usual Tuesday night dinners, and what intriguing conversations we all had. I now realise that Home and Away must be based on real life. Well, Kath thought it was anyway. Kath was always concerned about the actors. I probably shouldn't call them actors, I should say the people of Summer Bay, but she knew that Alf Stewart was there to provide them with help and advice. But of course, this did not stop Kath from being worried about Irene, Marilyn, Leah, let alone Dean and Ziggy. And I did have their future baby, but I did see on last night's edition that the baby has come along, so it's quite amazing how quickly those series progress. I probably didn't help that situation because I normally Googled Home and Away spoilers to find out what was happening in the future. As Kath loved to discuss Home Away, while Rock Snare, her wonderful brother, just shook his head in dismay at the dinner table. That was pretty good though, wasn't it, Rox? You did enjoy those conversations. Luckily, I also work from home, so this enabled me to grab breakfast and lunch for Kath when she stayed with us. I dished her up eggs on toast one morning, which she ate completely. That plate was super clean. I did find out later that Kath absolutely hated eggs on toast. But she did not complain that morning, and I'm now wondering if Dexter, our dog, gave her a helping mouth. As he did not leave her side that morning, perhaps even licking that plate clean. You have me thinking, dear Aunt Kath, that you fed those eggs to Dexter when I wasn't looking, so you are a sneaky old girl, of course. Kath's devotion to her son Mark and her continued support of Lee was unwavering. But I must confess to Mark and Lee that when Kath's grandsons came along, Kai and Kale, I think they definitely did edge you out. Her grandsons really made the Winn family complete. Kath loved her grandsons so much and treasured you both immensely. She was a very special nana. Well, I best finish my say because I do have to get onto another screed, of course, but as per normal, I'll continue talking for a bit longer. On one trip to hospital, Kath even had the nurses apologising to her as they believed they had incorrectly placed the wrong year of birth on her bedside notes. It had born in 1930, and that had to be incorrect. Kath was quite chuffed about the non-mistake. Yes, born in 1930 and was always looking absolutely fabulous. Rest easy, Kath. You certainly inspired all your family with your energy and your determination. The music nights, the dances, the swimming, the exercise classes, the walking, let alone attending all those football matches and everything in between. You were simply amazing. Eston and Wynyard football clubs might have lost a paying spectator, but I have no doubt you'll be watching from above. Lee Winn, Kath's son, made the decision not to attend his mother's funeral today, but he did make a bio of his mother's life, which was very much appreciated, and it's with total respect to Kath that I'll now read this out to you. After this bio, Rocksnare, as Dudley said, will add further stories of his sister's life. Here's Lee's bio. Today, we celebrate the life of Kath, born Kathleen Snare, the only daughter of Dorothy and Clifford Snare. She was born in the old maternity home in Wynyard on the 26th of March 1930, also the day of the Wynyard show. She was the youngest sister to Daryl and older sister to Cyril and Roxley. Went to the Boat Harbour School, always did chores, would finish chores and head into Wynyard to watch the football on Saturday. At times of the Stanley show, would take horse down to the old Allen's siding and load horse on the train to head off to the show. Very close to brother Daryl, being so close in age. During the war, Kath and Daryl came very close to getting into trouble with the law. There was a total blackout on the coast at night, but Kath and Daryl went rabbit hunting. Kath was holding the lantern, and when they heard a noise, maybe a car coming, and thinking it was the police, the lantern was quickly extinguished and they ran home faster than the rabbits they were trying to catch. They were always at the local dances. Losing Daryl in 1949 when he was 21 and Kath was 19 was a huge blow. She then moved to Melbourne not long after and spent 5 years living with the family at Flemington in Melbourne, a Welsh couple who were known as Nan and Pop Fry. Never one to stay out of trouble, Kath recalled with a laugh the night she was caught out by Pop Fry. It must have been a curfew. She was chatting with some friends in a nearby park, and Pop Fry, being a very large and very intimidating with his thunderous voice, and was lumbering through the park with a torch looking for them. This put the fear of God into her and her friends, and she took off home. Most likely she did not do this again. It was here also that she shared a room with Phil Allen, her old neighbour, and they remained very close, lifelong friends. Kath often referred to Phil as a sister she never had. Often they would go to their beloved Essendon Bombers games together. In later years, after Kath was married, Trevor would often make her lunch for the game, but sometimes with a note slipped in speaking very highly not of Essendon's performance, especially if it was a Collingwood game. Kath first met Trevor at a social dance. So the story goes, their first meeting was not positive. Not only had Trevor just returned from cattle droving in Queensland, where he had fled to get away from another woman, but Kath thought he was too opinionated and full of himself. Several months later, Kath was invited by friends to a speedway meet. The local bus, which was actually a furniture van, pulled up to pick them up, and lo and behold, Trevor was in the back. Trevor, being Trevor, made one of his humorous quips to her, and Kath's response was to tell him that he was wearing odd socks. They went to the speedway, and it was Trevor's sister's sister Joyce, who was working on the gate and snuck them all in for free. After that, they started dating. This was around the time Trevor had joined the Australian Navy. It was on a trip home to Tasmania to meet the potential in-laws that Trevor's naval career was cut short by injury due to a poor-fitting pair of gum boots, of all things. He made the decision, rather than take a medical downgrade in the Navy, he would retire on medical grounds, marry Kath and settle into life in Melbourne. They bought land at Croydon, and after their wedding on Easter Saturday, the 31st of March 1956, they started building their life and home at Croydon. Kathleen and Trevor soon settled into life in Croydon, which was an outer suburb of Melbourne. It was out in the bush, on an unmade dirt road, serviced by an outhouse and night cart man. Kath told a funny story about their guy, who was a bit rough at times, and one collection involved the bottom of the can failing and ending up all over the bloke. They constructed a basic 3-room bungalow at the rear of the block, while they worked on weekends and often nights after work to build what was described in 1961 as a modest 3-bedroom weatherboard with a tiled roof. The neighbourhood was still orchards. In 1962 and then 1965, Mark and Lee joined them to become the complete family. Kath recounted, though, a very scary story in 1967. Bushfires threatened their home. Trevor was off with the other local men, fighting back the flames with wet sacks and beaters, while Kath hastily packed the car and children ready for flight. The fire was stopped a kilometre from their home. Despite Trevor's health problems in the 70s and 80s, there was always family holidays at Christmas, home to Tasmania. Kath's heart never left Tasmania. Sadly, in 1992, after 36 years of marriage, Trevor died. He was barely a month off retirement when this happened. Over the next few years, Kath spent an increasing amount of time in Wynyard caring for her mum, Dorothy. While her mum passed away on Christmas Day 2000, Kath reignited an old friendship with Ivor Hall and shared a home with him until Ivor passed in June 2010. They were often seen out at local dances. A funny story was often recounted by Ivor. He was approached at one dance and subtly suggested it was great to see him out with a dance partner, but it would be better if he chose a woman more his own age. To this he promptly replied, "Kath is older than me." In 2008, Kath's world was complete with the arrival of her first grandchild, Kai, and then 4 years later, Kale. She just lived and loved those boys, her boys, as she loved to describe them. She often, however, lamented that Trevor was never there to enjoy them with her, or that she got to be with them as often as she would have liked. When she returned to Wynyard, especially after Ivor's passing, her passion for Wynyard Football Club was always at the fore, and it was a rare day indeed when she was not found at the ground watching them play. She was often a social butterfly, always out at a dance or some community event, or visiting one of her many friends. Gym twice a week, swimming the same, not to mention the many dances around the coast. Moving into Spencer Park in 2010, she found her niche, her space and her domain. It was her final home, her space and her security. Lee just wished she would have had decluttered a little bit more, because it became a Salem track for him in his chair to navigate, but made do because that was her memories and what made her happy. She had 92 great years. She was certainly a well-known face around town and a good friend and well-loved by so many who knew her. Rest peacefully now, Kath. Those words were from her son, and who also thanked you all for joining us to celebrate Kath's life. They probably weren't completely up to date because they were taken on March 2020. But again, thank you all, and I'll have the honour now to pass over to my father-in-law, Rock Snare.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Dudley. I'll have to apologise for a bit of repetition, but geez, you didn't miss much, Michael. Thank you. So thank you to Dudley and Michael, who covered a large part of Kath's life from the details provided by Lee. I would like to take a few minutes as Kath's younger brother to elaborate on some of them, to add some of my own thoughts and to convey some thanks on behalf of Kath and the family. Before I do so, I must thank you all for being here to celebrate Kath's life, and thank you to those joining us on live stream. As I said, I make no apologies for the repetitions. As a 7-year-old younger brother, I guess I would have caused Kath some moments of grief. But during the last month, with my visits to the hospital to see Kath, and when we realised that she was not going to make it out of the hospital, we had lots of wonderful discussions about our times together, and we were able to discuss the thank yous that Kath wanted me to convey on her behalf when this day arrived. Mum and Dad were living at Port Road, Boat Harbour when Kath was born. They were share farming with Dad's brother Vic. The Snare family moved from Abersham to Port Road in 1916. Cousin Ozzy remembers the Vic Snares living in the northern side of the house and the Cliff Snares in the southern side. There was just a single door separating the two families. Can you imagine that, with a couple of youngsters here and a couple of youngsters there? Ozzy recalls one occasion when two groups became a bit rowdy with each other, and his sister Audrey armed herself with the 4-foot-long tines used to put the wood on the fire, just in case Daryl and Kath made their way through the doorway. Ozzy assures me that really the two families got on very well. In 1935, when Kath was just 5 years old, Dad purchased the farm at Willow Glen in Boat Harbour, opposite the old Boat Harbour Primary School. And as we have heard, Kath did her schooling there. There is an amazing coincidence that on starting school in 1937, Kath's desk mate was a young girl with the name of Phyllis Heath. Their friendship continued when they both moved to Melbourne and married, and 85 years on, at the time of Kath's passing, they were still great friends. Phil was able to visit Kath and spend valuable time with her just 5 weeks ago. What an amazing friendship. Thank you, Phil. As we've heard, Kath's time at Willow Glen, both during and on leaving school, was spent helping in the house and with some outside chores. We're expected to, after school and on weekends, to help in the dairy, hand milking up to 25 cows. My brother Cyril and I used to give Kath a bit of a hard time. Those of you will remember that back in the 40s and the 50s, the dunny was way out the back of the house, and ours was no exception. Kath dared not mention that she needed to go to the toilet in the dark, or one of us would position ourselves behind the gate separating the house block from the yard where the loo was, and we could frighten one heck out of her. Kath had many pets on the farm. Her favourite was Timmy the pony. Timmy was Kath's major transport around the district. It was said that she did not walk nor trot Timmy. It was just a flat-out gallop everywhere. Roy remembers them going down Heath's Lane and you could see the sparks flying from the metal. Kath had a great relationship with another cousin, Elsie, Bub Bramage. They tell the story that on Receiving her driving licence, Bub's dad allowed her to take the car to the Sisters Creek dance. On the way, they wondered what the burning smell was. To arrive at the dance and being told they'd driven from Boat Harbour to Sisters Creek with the handbrake on. As we have heard, the tragic loss of our brother Daryl in 1949 in a workplace accident in Wynyard was a big blow to our family. Kath and Daryl were very close. They're very good at covering up for each other. And there was an occasion where Daryl had been involved in a bit of an altercation at the local dance, and so Kath quickly laundered his white shirt before Mum found out. Kath, with her girlfriend Mel, moved to Melbourne in 1951 prior to her marriage, and she worked at Angus Meats, the slide fastener factory, and then later on the Victorian market for one of the market owners. During Kath's married life in Melbourne, her and Trevor were so lucky to have Phil and Darcy there as their friends, and they made close friendships with other families, including Jim and Nancy Rawson and Graham and Margaret Rattray and their families. I believe there are representatives of them here today. Thank you so much for your attendance. As we have heard, on returning to Wynyard, Kath renewed her friendship with Ivor. They were so great for each other. Dancing, car trips, country and western times, and thank you to the whole family for their acceptance of Kath. On Ivor's passing, Kath spent valuable time with her girlfriends, outings, lunches, etc. It is only 5 weeks ago that she had a wonderful time with friends at a high tea party in Dodgen Street. I repeat as well that how great it is that Kai and Kale here today, her two grandfunds that she just so loved. Thank you for being here, along with your mum. To finish, just a few other thanks from Kath and the family. To mark how great it was that you could come down from Brisbane and care for your mum over an extended time in her unit. Likewise to Lee, when she required extra care, you were able to provide that at Latrobe. To my family, thank you so much for including Kath in our family functions. You treated her more like a sister than an auntie. You always involved her in our family events. Thank you. You have been so wonderful. To Tracy and Michael, thank you so much for taking Kath into your care when she came out of hospital and required extra care. Unfortunately, Paul, Sam and the family could not be here today, but they spent quality time with Kath in January, just before she went back into hospital for the last time. To Avis, you have been so wonderful to Kath. Thank you so much. Along with Aileen and Doreen and those that shared the regular Friday lunches with Kath at French Sticks, thank you all. To Marge and Pam and Kath's swimming group, thank you. Kath so much looked forward to her swimming days. The gymnastics group, as you can see for all of that, as Michael mentioned, Kath could be classed as a bit of a social butterfly. On my final discussions with Kath in hospital centred around our time together since Kath returned from Melbourne, and I remember so well we thanked each other for being great brother and sister, and Kath remarked, "I cannot recall us ever having an argument." That was pretty special. Finally, as Michael has said, I repeat again that thank you to the Northwest Private Hospital nurses, Mr Fassett. Thank you for your care of Kath, particularly over the last 2 years. And to you, Kath, thank you for sharing your life with us and allowing us to share our life with you. Rest in peace.
Thank you very much to both Michael Landrox and now about to call on grandson Kai to come forward, and I think he might like to bring his young brother with him for a bit of moral support. But thanks again to Rox for saving Kath quite a deal of money by not having to buy laxatives when you stood behind the fence when the poor lady needed to go. Now we have the pleasure of bringing forward someone that Kath was so proud of, and I speak of grandson Kai. And would you like to come forward now, Kai? Bring Kyle with you if you wouldn't mind, and Dad, anybody. Yeah, there you are. Some fine lads. Not much wonder Kath was so proud of you. It's all yours.
Dear friends and family, today we gather to not only mourn the passing of our Nana Kath, but also to celebrate the person she was and what she meant to all of us. She was a remarkable person who touched the lives of so many people in many different ways. She was always positive and brought an upbeat feeling to life whenever you saw her. I remember how we always used to go walking along the beach in front together with coffees in our hands and a big bright smile on our faces. That was just one of the amazing times I've shared with her. Nana lived her life to the fullest, always with a smile on her face and a kind word for everyone. She made the world a better place by simply being in it. Although we are deeply saddened by her passing, we take comfort in knowing that she is now at peace, free from the pain and suffering that she had experienced in her final days with us. Rest in peace, dear Nana, you'll never be forgotten.
Thank you very much, Kai, and I think it's worth a reverent round of applause for our three speakers today. Now, I did say earlier that we'd be opening the service for anyone who would share a story, so while you're making up your minds in that particular area, I do have a couple of other little notes here to share with you about Kath, and it says, I suppose you've been told about her passion for AFL. Heaven help anyone who interrupted her watching any game. She would often watch one and listen to another one at the same time. And there is even a funny story that when she lived in Croydon and Mark was very young, she went to one of his games, and as she often did, but this time her sideline antics got a severe reprimand from the umpire. What'd you say, Kath? Trying to tell the man how to umpire another little story here that when she was very young, one night a rat crawled into bed with her and bit her on the ear. And for the rest of her life, she would run a mile at the sight of a rat. And later on, she owned a little Jack Russell dog, and one day the little dog brought her home a newly deceased rat. And yeah, you can imagine Kath being in a bit of a flurry over that. But now, is there anybody who has a story to share with us? You might like to come forward or even just stand where you are. I know there are a lot of stories, and there certainly will be a lot of memories shared around at the Bowls Club afterwards. It doesn't look like it there. But anyway, you'll relive a lot of memories around there. But now we're about to relive some memories in pictorial form. We're going back a little bit in Kath's life and listening to some of her favourite music in the background as we go through some treasured family photographs. Thank you.
I'll take you home again, Kathleen, across the ocean wild and wide, to where your heart has ever been. Since birth you were my bonny bride. The roses all have left your cheeks. I've watched them fade away and die. Your voice is sad whene'er you speak, and tears beat in your loving eyes. Oh, I will take you back, Kathleen, to where your heart will feel no pain. And when the fields are fresh and green, I will take you to your home, Kathleen. I know you love me, Kathleen dear. Your heart was ever fond and true. I always feel when you are near that life holds nothing dear but you. The smiles that once you gave to me, I scarcely ever see them now, though many, many times I see a darkening shadow on your brow. Oh, I will take you back, Kathleen, to where your heart will feel no pain. And when the fields are fresh and green, I will take you to your home, Kathleen.
Some lovely memories of a lovely lady. So, my friends, we are grateful for Kath's life and for everything that her life has meant to each and every one of us. We're glad that she lived and that she shared her life with us. We'll always be thankful that we saw her face, we saw her smile and we felt her touch. We will always cherish the memory of her words, her deeds, and her loving, caring personality. But Kath has a message for the family. To my dear family, there are some things that I'd like to say. But first of all, I must let you know that everything is okay. Remember, for me, there is no more sadness, no more tears or pain. So please don't be unhappy because I'm in your thoughts again. When you think of my life and those love-filled years, because you're only human, it's bound to bring tears. Don't be afraid to cry, my dears, it does relieve the pain. And remember, there would be no roses unless there was some rain. And one thing I think for certain, though my life on earth is o'er, in a way I'm closer to you now than I ever was before. There may be rocky roads ahead of you and many hills to climb, but together we can do it by taking one day at a time. It gives me joy to know my life was so worthwhile. As I passed along, I loved, I laughed, and I made some people smile. Now when you go walking with me upon your mind, imagine that I'm with you still, just half a step behind. Remember when it's time for you to finally be free, you'll not just be going, you'll be coming home to me. That's a lovely tribute. So in grief at her passing, but in gratitude for her life, today we have gathered to say a final farewell to Kath and to thank her for the privilege of being numbered amongst those who grieve. May you all find comfort, richness and example in your many memories. May you find strength and support in your love for one another, and may you find peace in your hearts. Some of the messages shared with Kath after her passing, she was summed up by an amazing lady, such a strong person, such a beautiful lady and person with grace and elegance, a lady within her own right, such energy and heart, now resting with her beloved Trevor. It is the, the family wish that we share the Lord's Prayer today as a mark of respect of our upbringing and Kath's upbringing. And I will say the Lord's Prayer and invite those of you who are so minded to join in with me if you would. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Now I believe that family members do have a floral tribute that they would like to place on Kath's casket before she leaves, and I now invite them to come forward and to do that while we listen to a little bit more of Kath's favourite music. Thank you.
I dreamed Mama walked up those heavenly stairs, and medals for mothers were given up there. They mentioned a million things Mom did for me, things I took for granted and never could see. If there's medals for mothers, for all of the deeds they have done, if there's medals for mothers.
Medals for mothers, and I'm sure that Kath would have had quite a collection of those. Just before we come to the final part of our service today, I'd like once again to offer my personal sympathy to the family and to thank you so much of the great honour that you paid me by allowing me to play a small part in Kath's farewell. And yes, it's not easy work, I can tell you, and the family have spoken so beautifully as well, and it must have been tough on them. And yeah, so thank you once again for having me aboard. It is a great honour. Thank you so much, everyone. So we have now reached that part of our service we call the Committal, where we commit Kath to the next stage of her journey. These then are the last rites in the natural life of Mrs. Kathleen Yvonne Winn. We have met to pay tribute and say farewell, and so tenderly and reverently we commit Kath for cremation. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, grateful for the life that has been lived and for all that life has meant to each and every one of us. We now leave Kath in peace, and with the greatest of respect we bid her our farewell. Thus, thinking of her, let us leave this place in quietness of spirit and live with concern for one another, resolved that we who live on and those who come after us shall have life and have it more abundantly, as per Kath's wishes. You were a good woman to many people, Kath, gone but not forgotten, gone but never apart, for we are blessed with memories held deeply within our hearts. Your life was a blessing, your memory a treasure. You are loved beyond words and missed beyond measure. Thank you for a million wonderful memories, Kath. Farewell, and may you forever rest in peace. Could I now invite you all to stand and listen to some more of Kath's favourite music? I think it originally started with the Essendon Football Club, but you may sing along. You are invited to sing along. Farewell, Kath, and thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
See the Bombers fly up, up to win the premiership flag. Our boys who play this candle game are always striving for glory and fame. See the Bombers fly up, up. The other teams they don't fear. They all try their best, but they can't get near as the Bombers fly up. Flag. Our boys who play this grand old game are always striving for glory and fame. See the Bombers fly up, up. The other teams they don't fear. They all try their best, but they can't get near.